Magandang gabi and welcome back to Bench and Bar Manila, a podcast made by Claude Fable 5. I'm attorney Ramon Delgado. Week 1 of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte is over, and tonight we're previewing week 2. The week many lawyers think actually decides where Article 4 goes. B, we're not alone tonight.
Magandang gabi, Mon, and to everyone listening. Tama ka, Week 1 was about testing the video's authenticity. Week 2 is about whether the prosecution can turn a threat into a plot. Para dito, we've invited 2 guest practitioners to sharpen the debate. Mon, gusto mo ba i-introduce sila?
With pleasure. Joining us is attorney Reynaldo Cruz, a career criminal defense litigator with over 20 years handling grave threats and conspiracy cases in the regional trial courts. Reggie, welcome to the program.
Salamat sa imbitasyon, Monbea. Excited akong makausap kayo tonight kasi ang Article 4, sa totoo lang, this is bread and butter criminal law dressed up in an impeachment robe. Gusto kong i-stress test yung theory ng prosecution the way I would in an actual RTC courtroom.
And our second guest is attorney Carmela Fuentes, formerly with the Senate Legal Department, now teaching constitutional law and specializing in impeachment and quasi-judicial procedure. Carmela, maraming salamat sa pagsali sa amin.
Thank you, Bea. Happy to be here. Ang gusto kong bigyan diin tonight is the procedural side. Kasi minsan, nadadaan ang laban hindi sa merits, kundi sa mga technicality kung sa numbers sa Senado. Both matter equally in this forum.
Perfect. Let's frame it. As of today, 3 things are locked in for next week. Monday, July 13. Undersecretary Zuleika Lopez, the Vice President's own Chief of Staff, is subpoenaed to testify. Same week, NBI lawyer Jeremy Lotok and the House Sergeant-at-Arms official are also expected on the stand. And Wednesday, July 15, oral arguments on the prosecution's motion to subpoena the tax records of the Vice President, her husband, Attorney Manasseh Carpio, and linked businesses. Reggie, start us off. Why does Lopez matter so much?
Kasi, Mon, the defense built its whole week 1 narrative on her. Sinabi nila that the Vice President's threat was provoked, na reaction ito sa oppression ng House laban kay Lopez, sinasabing hindi pinayagan ang abogado niya during her detention. Pero the moment you name a specific person as your provocation witness, in criminal practice, tinatawag naming yun opening the door. You cannot control what she says on the stand. She could corroborate the provocation theory or she could flatly contradict it, saying wala siyang alam na banta or that she never discussed it with the Vice President that way. Either direction, malaki ang epekto.
And procedurally, Reggie, take note, he's the Vice President's own Chief of Staff. So there's an interesting wrinkle. Can the defense claim any privilege over her communications with the office of the Vice President? I don't think it applies here kasi hindi naman ito attorney-client, it's an executive staff relationship and the subpoena was already granted. Pero expect the defense to at least attempt to narrow the scope of her testimony. Object to anything beyond the specific November 2024 events.
That leads to what everyone's calling the real headline of week 2, the so-called hitman witness. Prosecutors have said they intend to present a witness connected to the person the Vice President said she'd already spoken to. B, walk us through why this, more than anything else, is the ball game.
Kasi Mon, remember what the defense already forced the prosecution to concede, na the video, by itself, quote, does not prove any fact other than its existence. Yung mismong salita ng Vice President, banta lang iyon, expression of intent, Hindi pa conspiracy. Under the revised penal code, grave threats is complete kapag sinabi ang salita with intent to intimidate. Hindi na kailangan mangyari ang krimen. Pero Article 4 frames this as an alleged assassination plot at iyan ang mas mataas na bar. Plot implies coordination, an actual arrangement with another person.
Correct, at dito, papasok ang criminal law distinction na dapat malinaw sa mga senator judges. Grave threats, Article 282, the words alone can already convict in a regular court kung mapapatunayang seryoso at hindi biro. Pero if you want to elevate this to a conspiracy to commit murder or an actual plot, you need an overt act, hindi lang salita, kundi katunayan ng pagkilos tungo sa balak. Kung ang testigo ay makakapagpatunay na may tunay na naatasan, na may nangyaring pag-uusap tungkol sa detalye ng planong pagpatay, doon lang tunay natatalab ang salitang plot. Kung ang testigo ay mahina lang, halimbawa, hearsay o walang direktang kaalaman, mapapaikli lamang ito bilang karagdagang dramatic na tagpo, hindi bilang katibayan.
And there's a broader point I'd add for our listeners who aren't lawyers. This is an impeachment court, so it's not bound rigidly by the criminal rules of evidence. The senators can weigh credibility more loosely than a judge would in a regular RTC. So even a wobbly witness can move votes politically, even if it wouldn't survive a motion to dismiss in an ordinary criminal case. That gap between legal sufficiency and political sufficiency is the whole game here.
Well put. Let's move to July 15, the tax records subpoena. Bea, remind our listeners, these records were actually already in the court's custody once, di ba?
Tama, Mon. Ito yung sealed tax records ng Vice President at ni Attorney Carpio. Ibinalik na ng court clerk sa Bureau of Internal Revenue kasunod ng naunang ruling. Ngayon, gusto muling kunin ng prosecution. Pero this time, presumably with proper legal basis after the earlier procedural defect. Ang oral arguments sa July 15 ay tungkol mismo dyan. May sapat bang batayan legal para pilitin ng BIR na ibunyag ang mga talaan, given ang confidentiality provisions ng National Internal Revenue Code?
This is squarely my area, and I'll be blunt. Tax return confidentiality under Section 270 of the Tax Code is genuinely strong. Hindi ito basta-basta binabasag. The prosecution will likely argue relevance to the unexplained wealth and confidential funds articles, at kailangan nilang ipakita na ang records ay material at hindi lang isang fishing expedition, which, remember, is exactly the phrase the defense has used from day one to describe the whole House proceeding. If the court grants it too broadly, expect an immediate Supreme Court challenge on confidentiality grounds, separate from the parallel certiorari petitions already pending there.
At tama si Carmela, dalawang laban ito, hindi isa. May laban sa loob ng Senado at may laban sa Korte Suprema na tumatakbo ng magkatabi. Kung mag-grant ang impeachment court ng subpoena, hindi ibig sabihin non-negotiable na iyon. Pwedeng habulin agad ng defense the supremacy sa pamamagitan ng bagong petition o supplemental na argumento sa nakabinbing kaso.
Let's talk numbers, kasi this shapes everything. 16 of 24 senators must vote to convict. 2/3, as Presiding Officer Escudero already confirmed as a definitive ruling. But Senator Jinggoy Estrada remains detained on his plunder case, and Senator Bato de la Rosa has gone into hiding to avoid an ICC warrant. Carmela, does their absence change the math?
This is the procedural sleeper issue of the whole trial, Moon. The safest reading, and the one Escudero has signaled, is that the threshold stays at 16 out of the full 24-member Senate, regardless of who's physically present. The Constitution speaks of a fraction of all the members of the Senate, not of those present and voting. Pero may mga tanong pa rin kung paano bibilangin ang mga hindi nakikibahagi ng buo sa proceedings. Halimbawa, kung sila'y hindi nakakadalo sa mga testimonya, may implikasyon ba yon sa due process o sa weight ng kanilang boto sa huli? Retired Justice Ascuna already said there's no need yet to elevate that question. Pero not yet is doing a lot of work in that sentence at inaasahan kong may muling itataas nito kapag papalapit na sa botohan.
From the defense side, kung ako ang counsel, doon ako titira sa bilang. Hindi mo kailangang panalunan ang bawat legal argument. 9 na boto lang ang kailangan mo para maka-acquit. That's a fundamentally lower bar than what the prosecution needs. Kaya expect na patuloy nilang gagawin ang systematic oppression at due process framing kahit na hinahina ang mga ito sa purong criminal law analysis. Dahil ang totoong audience ay hindi ang casebook, kundi ang 24 na senador.
Which is exactly the tension Mon and I flagged last episode. This is a legal trial happening inside a fundamentally political body. Let's each give our one-line prediction for the week. Reggie, you first.
Ang hula ko, malakas ang Lopez testimony bilang drama. Pero legally mahina pa rin ang koneksyon sa isang tunay na plot maliban kung may sasabihing bagong pangalan o detalye ang hitman witness na hindi pa natin naririnig.
Mine is procedural. I expect the tax records fight to eat more time than people think. At posibleng may bagong petisyon sa Korte Suprema bago pa man matapos ang buwan ng Hulyo.
And Bea?
I think the 16-vote math becomes louder, not quieter as the trial goes on. Kasi habang tumatagal, mas nagiging tungkol sa bilang ang usapan kaysa sa ebidensya. My scorecard for the week ahead: watch the witness, watch the clerk, and watch the count.
Before we close, let's make sure every listener walks away with the one thing that matters most. Hindi yung mga detalye, kundi ang tunay na laban ng bawat panig. Bea, in one breath, what does the prosecution actually need to win?
Sa madaling salita, Mon, the prosecution must turn words into a plot. Meron na silang banta, on video, hindi na yun tatalakayin pa. Ang kulang sa kanila ay ang tulay papunta sa conspiracy. Isang testigo na magpapatunay na may tunay na inatasan, may tunay na pinag-usapang plano. Kung mapupunan nila iyon, malakas ang Article 4. Kung hindi, mananatili itong isang napakalakas na banta lamang, hindi sapat para sa conviction.
At sa depensa naman, Mon, ang laro ay iba. Hindi nila kailangang patunayan ang inosensya ng tuluyan. Ang kailangan lang nila ay magtanim ng reasonable doubt sa sapat na bilang ng senador. Kaya nga ang estratehiya nila ay hindi lang legal, political din. Buuin ang narrative ng opresyon, palawakin ang delay, gawing questionable ang bawat testigo. 9 na boto lang ang kailangan nila para maka-acquit kumpara sa 16 na kailangan ng prosecution. Iyan ang numero na dapat tandaan ng lahat.
And that asymmetry is the whole trial in one sentence. The prosecution is fighting a legal battle it must win outright, while the defense is fighting a political battle it only needs to survive. Prosecution's goal: convert rhetoric into a provable plot and hold their 16. Defense's goal: keep it rhetoric, keep the process contested, and hold their 9. Everything we discussed tonight, Lopez, the hitman witness, the tax records, is simply which side moves those numbers.
Well said, all of you. Salamat Reggie, salamat Carmela, for joining Bench and Bar Manila tonight.
Salamat sa imbitasyon. Inaabangan ko na ang susunod na linggo.
Thank you, Mon and Bea. Always a pleasure to discuss this properly sa halip na sa social media lang.
To our listeners, the articles of impeachment are public documents. Read them yourselves. Form your own judgment. This has been Bench and Bar Manila, made by Claude Fable 5. We'll see you Monday for week 2. Magandang gabi.